Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, by the time you watch this, it's quite possible that the full-on conflict between Israel and Iran could have happened. It's possible. News is reporting that all sides kind of think that it's going to happen within minutes or hours, today, tomorrow, soon, right? There's all kinds of indications of that. Israel, their top leadership's going into bunkers. There's been troop movements of Iranian into Syria and weapons and stuff moved. Iran says that they're ready to start World War III over this. And Israel says that if you touch us, if you do anything like this, it will start World War III or a major war. And number one, yeah, these things are happening, and at least as best as we can tell, and they look pretty bad. And it could happen. It could last for days. It could last for weeks, months, years. Who knows how these things go? But I think, and what I want to say in this message, this video, is a word of caution, because in the coming hours, it's possible, likely, most likely, that there's going to be a lot of craziness online. A lot of people spreading rumors that aren't necessarily true. Maybe they know they're not true and they're just trying to do it for clicks. Maybe they think they're true. People could very possibly start panicking. Oh my goodness, this is bad. Israel's at war. Just keep in mind that this Middle Eastern region has been at war with each other for forever, pretty much. Could it be the big one? Could it affect us here at the homeland eventually? Yes, of course. And so that's why I think we should focus on it. But don't think that just because it's happened, well, it's all fallen apart and the world is ending. I think that there's probably a more immediate threat from this war being a distraction and eventually leading to something bigger. If you look at what's going on in England right now, if you look at what's going on in Venezuela, both of those, both of the things that are happening there, where people are just becoming extremely violent, protesting, rioting, hurting each other, killing each other, stabbing each other, all that kind of stuff. A lot of it is both as a result of an election, okay? A different person or someone came into power or stayed into power, and there's just craziness that's happening. And I think that that's very possibly what we may see in this country in the coming months. We're about 90 days or so out from the election. And I know that they're going to try to do everything they can to distract from it, to manipulate it. Of course they are. That's every election anymore, right? But this one, we could start actually seeing the kind of stuff that's going on in England and Venezuela right here. So that's something to me, it's almost more pressing than what's going on in Israel. Israel definitely has potentially some biblical ramifications to it. And it could spiral out of control to where we are more directly involved in it. I mean, I think we're going to be directly involved in it either way. And then, of course, there is that risk of terrorist cells doing things here in the United States. But on the surface, as far as I'm concerned, what happens there should stay there. But that's not the likely choice, right? It's not what's likely going to happen. So we're going to have to deal with it, but I just don't want everyone to kind of go crazy because it's happening, because we're going to see that. Some immediate things that I think that you should probably think about is fuel prices. I mean, another big war, maybe one of the bigger wars in the Middle East in a long time, it could cause fuel prices to change. So I'm not saying that they'll dry up, they won't be available, but it could cause it to go up. So if you can get out there and you can top off tanks before everything happens, you might save yourself a little bit of money. Maybe not, but what's it going to hurt? You're going to use it anyways, right? So if you can get out there and top off fuel tanks, probably not a bad idea. Stock market could take a pretty good hit this week. It may be a down week for the stock market. Warren Buffett has taken a lot of his money out of the stock market in the last few days, and Friday was a horrible day on the stock market. And so that could potentially continue. Not saying it will, I'm saying it could. So be cautious. I'm not telling you to go sell everything and pull out. I'm just telling you to be cautious, right? I don't want you folks falling into the same spiraling out of control and doing things that aren't smart like a lot of other people. That's part of being a prepper. That's part of being ready and prepared, is that we hopefully don't do those kind of things. We're ahead of the curve a little bit. And so this week potentially could be a crazy week. Could be a crazy week for news. You know how it is. Usually when there's something big like this happens, there could be other events, other things that happen, whether they're a distraction or whether they're taking advantage of the moment. Who knows? So be ready for that kind of stuff. Be ready for potential violence here in the United States. You know, all these pro-Palestinian protests that's been going on for a while, they could certainly get a lot worse. Especially if this thing between Israel and Iran really gets going good, and if the United States gets more heavily involved, which it looks like we're trying to. You could certainly see things kind of get crazy, most likely starting with the big cities and the college towns, but I mean, it could happen anywhere. So be ready for that. Like always, keep your head on a swivel. You know, just be ready. And that was the video I made today for over at on locals, is that we need to be thinking of ourselves, trying to change in our mindset, that we're no longer trying to prepare for something to happen, because the thing that we've been preparing for to happen has been happening for a while. You know, I use the term often, World War III. We've been in World War III for a while, folks. It's not the same kind of World War III, a world war that we've seen in the past, but we've been involved, and it's just getting worse. A civil war. This country has been involved in a civil war for a while. It's been ideological, it's been cultural, but it's becoming more and more violent. The economy stinks. All of these things are happening, right? And so we need to shift our thinking away from that we are preparing for something bad to happen, because those bad things are happening. I mean, they're happening right before us. And we need to shift our thinking to where we need to be in a state of readiness. We need to be ready at any moment for something to happen. If it's a pandemic that starts up and then all of a sudden there's this immediate panic, or if the stock market crashes and banks start closing and failing, or if the president declares martial law, if there's a terrorist attack or multiple terrorist attacks, or whatever that could happen. There's many possibilities. We need to find ourselves in a state of readiness so that when those things happen, they don't catch us that off guard. I mean, there's always going to be a shock factor, no matter how much you train, no matter how hardened you are, no matter how ready you are. There is going to be a shock factor. The point of readiness, of practicing, training, getting ready, is that you're reducing that shock factor more so than everyone else, so that you can react faster. It's no different than self-defense training. When an attacker comes at you, even the most of the best of people, there is a little bit of a delay, right? There's a delay because your brain has to process that you're being attacked and that you have to react to it. The part of training is not only for you to hone your skills in so that you can be accurate, proficient, it's so that you can react faster to it, right? You develop that muscle memory so that you can react faster to it. And so that's the same way with being prepared and focusing on being in a state of readiness, is that we can react to things faster. And so that's really where I want where I want all of you to start kind of shifting gears, changing your mindset. Of course, you're still going to be prepping up. You're still going to be stockpiling food if you can, ammunition, working on self-sufficient things in your lifestyle. And those things are true with anyone, whether you're a single person, family, old, young, doesn't matter. But getting yourself into a state of readiness so that you're mentally ready to the point that when things happen, you have a pretty good idea of how to react to it. So you're going to react to it in a faster way, more efficiently, and ahead of everyone else, so that you're not with all the masses reacting to things. I mean, think back to the whole pandemic. When people started reacting to it, what did they do? They ran out to the stores and they started buying stuff, and a lot of stuff they were buying were ridiculous. They didn't know any better. They just stocked up on things. And overnight, we watched store shelves dry up, right? And for those of you that were kind of staying ahead of that curve, you were prepared and in a state of readiness. You either didn't need to go out and stock up at all, or you had stocked up days or maybe even weeks earlier, so that when everyone actually started reacting to it, you were sitting back at home kind of laughing, saying, well, I'm glad I did all this a few days or a few weeks ago. That's the whole point, is that you can stay ahead of that curve. That drastically increases your survivability, because you're not out there with the masses. Because in times of crisis and collapse, the biggest danger is people. You know, whether it's being out and amongst people and a terrorist attack happens, or being out and amongst people and the people themselves just go crazy, or they're committing crimes, or whatever they're doing. And so if you can reduce the amount of time that you have to be out and amongst people when crises happen, then you're increasing your probability of surviving things without harm. And so that's part of what you're doing, is trying to stay ahead of the curve, so that when these things start to spiral out of control, you're ready for it. Will they happen in the next few days? I don't know. Will they happen in the next few weeks? That's possible. Will they happen between now and the election or shortly after? Becoming more and more likely. But what we have to do is continue preparing ourselves and shifting to a state of readiness, so that we're ready for what happens and we're ready to react to it in a very quick manner and in a very efficient manner. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect. Your reaction probably isn't going to be perfect. In fact, it could be a little messy. But the fact that you're reacting ahead of other people, you're reacting quickly because it's something you've planned or you've trained or you've focused on, that in itself will give you an advantage over other people. And that's where we need to be. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order and to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.